What is good, Josh on this Smooth Game Man? Back with yet another reaction video, baby. Today we're back with that anime content here, more specifically that Naruto content, man. We're back with another NC Hammer video. This is the Hokage versus the Uchiha. I'd say this is a pretty, high level battle. You got the Hokage, the strongest people in the villages, the Uchiha, which, I mean, and what could have made the most sense could have just been the Shadow Hokage for every single year. If they didn't make Itachi kill them all. My bad. But this is actually could be a really good fight. So I'm not sure which Uchiha we're going to pick from. Obviously, it's probably going to be Madara, Obito, Itachi, Sasuke, Fugaku, Shisui, Azuna? Maybe that's the 7 we're going with. Because obviously we got 7 different Hokage. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. 5th in Tsunade. 6th in Kakashi, and then Naruto at 7. So it's probably going to be a 7-on-7. Let's go ahead. I don't know if it's going to be all Hokage, the Hokage versus the entire Uchiha clan. Let's see what the premises of this are. But of course, as always, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you're brand new to the family, and turn that bell on so you guys can get notified when videos are going live for your boy. Hitting that road to 5K, man. Thank you guys so much for the love and support. I love seeing you guys down in the comment section, bro. Get down there with me. I will interact with you guys. I'm going to respond back. I'm going to talk with you, and we can kind of go over some of these battles. So, let me know down below who, after we learn what the matches will be, who do you take in each matchup? That can be something to comment down below, and we'll talk about it down below. Obviously, I'll be giving my feedback and my opinions over the different fights. Let's go ahead and jump into everything. Naruto, you good? You over there back there celebrating his victory already, because it's probably going to be Naruto and Sasuke. We done seen that dub how many times now? Let's get it.
Within every anime, there is a spectrum of power when it comes to certain characters. There are those who exist at the top, there is those who feed at the bottom. Depending on the length in terms of episodes, or the length in terms of the history of the universe within the anime, that list can have a much wider margin than originally anticipated. So what happens when you make a show that's over 750 episodes long that spans over 2,000 years? Well, then you get a lot of very powerful and also very weak characters. But today, we're going to be focusing on the very strong. In particular, some of the strongest. You see, because Naruto has had such a long runtime and has covered such a long time period, we have dozens of incredibly powerful ninjas to look at and think about. The thing about having this many powerful characters is that people can't help but speculate who would win in a fight. And we always find themselves wondering who would win in a fight between Kisame and Tobirama, or Minato and Itachi, or the top 7 Uchiha versus all of the Hokage. See, this is the question that we're going to venture out to answer today. If it came down to it, and the top 7 Uchiha all found themselves somehow alive, and all of the Hokage also found themselves somehow alive, and across a battlefield from each other, who would win in a battle? In essence, what would happen if Madara's dream of the future were to come to life? As Madara always feared that Konoha would turn its back to the Uchiha once again, and thus always preached that the Uchiha should separate from Konoha once again. But there's a reason that people ask this question, because genuinely, it's a close fight, as the majority of the Hokage at one point or another had a reflection in the Uchiha, whether that be a rival of theirs like Izuna and Tobirama, or Shadow Hokage / lover like Hashirama and Madara and Naruto and Sasuke. For as long as Konoha has existed, the Uchiha have been oddly tied into the Hokage ship, though never once holding...
Wait, does that mean... Dang, hold on. I can't wait to see how he matches this up, because Itachi was helping out the 3rd. People were talking about Fugaku and Minato together, as far as even going for the Hokage seat. So that'd be a weird matchup though, to go Itachi with Saratobi and then Fugaku and Minato. Let's see it though.
The role themselves. So as the forefront for knowledge when it comes to Naruto, I'd like to definitively answer the question, what would happen if all of the strongest Uchihas came into combat against all of the Hokage? Before we get to answering any questions about anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you want to hear me talk about other anime that aren't Naruto, then I have 2 suggestions for you. 1, you can follow my other YouTube channel, The Weeb Commander, where I talk any anime that's not Naruto. Or 2, you can follow my podcast. Yes, I created a podcast, specifically a podcast with D-Mata. This podcast is known as Otaku's Anonymous, and I will be talking about Naruto on it amongst all of the anime.
That polo kind of clean
Spotify,
though.
Instagram, Twitter,
I need that.
So hypothetical battles, even when
I feel like he about to go to a wine venue with that bit on. I kind of need that. Hey, where you get that from? I'm talking about that too. Is that Sheen?
They're just one-on-ones are relatively tough.
No, but
where are these 2 people fighting? What are the circumstances? What forms do they each have? And unfortunately, that problem is only exacerbated when you make it a 7-on-7. We're essentially making a rugby match out of the 14 most powerful people in Naruto. It's not easy. So we should probably lay some ground rules first. All of these 14 people on this list will be using their strongest forms. I thought about just giving them the powers they had while they were alive, but that makes it so one-sided for the Hokages, it's legitimately not even fun. So everybody on this list will be in their strongest form.
Wait, so I mean,
unfortunately for a couple people here, strongest form is kind of disagreed on. So for every person we talk about, we're going to be establishing what their strongest form in and why I believe that's their strongest form. Secondly, while I will be talking a series of one-on-ones, like Naruto versus Sasuke, Hashirama versus Madara, the person who wins the most one-on-ones doesn't necessarily win this fight. Because if the people on the side that win more one-on-ones end up going against somebody who they can't beat even collectively, well then obviously the other side would win. The way I think of this battle is that essentially there's 7 one-on-ones. If one of the Uchihas or the Hokages falls, the winner of that battle would go to help in another battle. That's just the way it would work. If Shisui beat Tsunade in a fight, he would not go help Itachi. And that's basically it. Strongest forms entirely doesn't mean victory, though it is a relatively good indicator that one side will win. I guess the only other real thing I need to do is establish the teams. Can you guess who's on the Hokage's team? But as for the Uchihas, it's Izuna, Madara, Obito, Itachi, Sasuke, Fugaku, and Shisui. Now the power scaling for a couple of those characters is a bit wonky, so we're going to be doing our best based on what we know.
I'm gonna try not to pause too much.
The rules out of the way, let's get into it. I figured the easiest way to do this is to work from the first Hokage to the last Hokage. Talk through the respective one-on-ones, tell you who wins, and get a tally going. Which means we get to start with one of the more interesting battles on this list, Hashirama versus Madara. See, this battle is basically the reason that I didn't want it to be their living forms. Because Hashirama spent the entirety of his living life beating Madara down. Even when Madara found a new shiny pet in Kurama, Hashirama just made his wood golem a little bit bigger and beat Kurama down. Madara decides to make majestic attire Susanoo with Kurama. Guess what? Hashirama has true 1,000 arms.
I don't know why, but hearing you say beat him down, it's hilarious, bro. I need that just one phrase to be a word, bro. And anytime some bullshit happen on one of my videos, I'm gonna just clip that. I'm gonna play that sound of something beating them down.
Was Kanon. How did Hashirama figure out that he needed that move? I'll never know. How you stumble upon the fact that you can make a 1,000-armed wooden god to punch a Susanoo off the strongest tailed beast? Who knows? Weekends, sometimes you have a little extra time to mess around. And I figured if Madara loses in round 1, well then, there goes the entirety of the Uchiha's hope. So here we are talking about the strongest versions of both Hashirama and Madara. Now, the strongest version of Hashirama is kind of a contentious issue, and for good reasons. See, many would argue that Hashirama's strongest form was when he was brought back during the 4th Great Shinobi World War, because after all, he was Edo Tensei, which means he had infinitely refilling chakra and was technically invincible. But the reason people consider this point contentious is because Hashirama didn't seem as powerful as he should have been in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. Obviously, Hashirama uses things like Wood Dragon and Wood Clones and Deep Forest Emergence in his Wood Golem, and he is seen using his Sage Mode, but never see Hashirama use his true 1,000 Arms Kanon, which is weird when we consider the fact that he definitely had enough chakra and probably should have, especially because they were fighting against the tailed beasts, most specifically the Ten Tails. And I can't imagine a move that would have been better for coming up against the Ten Tails than a wooden god the size of the Ten Tails. On top of this, when Hashirama battles against Madara, well, they're both Edo Tensei, before Madara even becomes human, Hashirama loses in a not-so-close battle. But we have to remind ourselves who brought these two respective people back with Edo Tensei. See, Kabuto brought back Madara, while Orochimaru brought back Hashirama. And Kabuto had actually perfected Edo Tensei, while Orochimaru really hadn't. See, Orochimaru's style of Edo Tensei is more focused on control than Kabuto's. Orochimaru likes to control those he brings back with Edo Tensei, while Kabuto just likes to direct those who he's Edo Tensei in a direction. On top of this, Kabuto stated to Madara that he made a bunch of adjustments to his body in order to make him as strong as possible, bringing him back at the peak of his physicality and with his Rinnegan and with Hashirama's cells. Well, Hashirama was just brought back like any other Edo Tensei body, which means he was brought back as he died, which means that Hashirama was brought back somewhere in his 50s, and therefore it makes sense that he wouldn't be at his strongest, especially when compared to Madara. So then who do you take? A Hashirama with infinitely refilling chakra and technically invulnerability, or a primate Hashirama who already kind of has both of those things? See, Hashirama's healing factor while he was alive was compared to that of the mitotic regeneration created through the 100 Heal Seal, meaning for better or worse, he already basically had Edo Tensei healing while alive. On top of that, when we consider the fact that Hashirama arguably had the highest chakra reserves we've ever seen and the ability to constantly refill it using his Sage Mode, the chakra refill of Edo Tensei also isn't that much of a boost. So if I could be so bold as to say, I don't believe that Edo Tensei Hashirama was his strongest form. I believe Hashirama's strongest form was most likely the form he was in when he battled against Madara for the last time. The form that used Thousand Arcanon to punch Majestic Susanoo off of Kurama. But is that Hashirama going toe-to-toe with 3 Rinnegan Madara? This would be the Madara that was able to pull off Infinite Tsukiyomi. So the question becomes, could Primate Hashirama win against this Madara? And while I think this fight is closer than a lot of people would like to admit, unfortunately, Hashirama would not win this. See, Hashirama with the Sage Mode would most likely be able to react to Limbo clones. But the thing that Hashirama had over Madara for all of their battles was durability, regeneration, and chakra. Madara's body essentially becoming 100% white Zetsu after becoming the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he not only had basically infinite chakra because he could tap into the chakra of the 10 Tails, he also had a regeneration factor so insane he was able to recover from Night Guy. And while obviously Hashirama has some incredible offensive capabilities, I don't think he has anything in his arsenal that can stack up to Night Guy. Now the real question becomes, would release work adversely against the 10 Tails Jinchuriki? As a 10 Tails Jinchuriki is essentially one with Tailed Beast chakra. And honestly, we can't really say, because while we do see Madara use wood release before he becomes the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, and the same could be said for Obito, when both of them become 10 Tails Jinchuriki, they stop using wood release. Now could this be because if they used wood release, it would weaken them? Or because they genuinely didn't need to, considering all the other power-ups they had received? We really can't say. But when we consider the lore, at least within the confines of Naruto, that Kaguya herself was once the 10 Tails, it stands to reason that as a 10 Tails Jinchuriki, there's the possibility that wood release would actually work rather effectively against you. Not to mention, I do believe that Hashirama probably has the speed to react to Madara's faster attacks. But if it comes down to a battle of longevity, even though Hashirama could hypothetically react to Limbo clones, things like that are going to wear him down over time. And he doesn't have the power scale of the 10 Tails to tap into. I mean, Madara essentially stole Sage Mode from Hashirama, making Madara pretty much everything Hashirama already was. So it'd be like Hashirama fighting against Hashirama with Rinnegan. It's an uphill battle to say the least. So that's one for the Uchiha, and a formidable foe for the Hokage to defeat at the end. After Hashirama, we have Tobirama, the second Hokage. Now, fortunately, just like with Hashirama and Madara, Tobirama has an Uchiha rival. His Uchiha rival was Izuna. And Izuna, even though his powers really weren't that explained, and we don't really know how strong he was a wielder of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Him and Madara awoke the Mangekyo Sharingan after killing one of their closest friends after reading the stone tablet. And it was with the power of this MS that both Madara and Izuna were able to fight toe-to-toe with Tobirama and Hashirama for years. That is, of course, until Tobirama created a couple of new jutsu. See, Tobirama saw that Izuna was upgrading himself with new eyes. So Tobirama decided to upgrade himself with teleportation and cloning himself and bringing the dead back to life. Seems a bit harder than stabbing your best friend to death while they're asleep, but what would I know? I haven't done either of those things, is what legally I have to say. And here's the thing, you can make the same argument that the strongest form of Tobirama could either be his Edo Tensei form or when he was in his prime age while still alive. But for Tobirama, I believe there's a strong argument for his Edo Tensei form being his strongest form. See, Tobirama was the creator of Edo Tensei. Nobody understands it better than him. Well, that's probably not true. Kabuto and Orochimaru might understand it better than him. But nobody applied it more evilly than Tobirama. See, Tobirama created a little thing called mutually multiplying explosive tags, where essentially he would create these Edo Tensei people out of explosive tags. And since these people had infinite regeneration, as they exploded, they would regenerate, making more explosive tags, making a near infinite cycle of explosions. See, Tobirama usually only could do this with other people, but as an Edo Tensei person, he was able to do it with himself. On top of that, even though Tobirama did have an insane amount of chakra, it wasn't nearly as much as Hashirama's. He also didn't have a Sage Mode that could replenish his chakra, so having infinitely replenishing chakra would also be a big plus. So while yes, did Edo Tensei Tobirama get absolutely sunned by Madara? Yeah, but did a live Tobirama, who was technically weaker than Edo Tensei Tobirama, already beat Izuna in a fight? Also, yes. And you could say that was a surprise feat because Izuna had never seen flying Raijin before. And quite honestly, if I had never seen a dude teleport before, and the first time I saw a dude teleport, he was trying to stab me, I'd be a little startled too. But considering that's genuinely the only feat we have for Izuna, I'm gonna have to go and give this one to Tobirama with relative ease. So things are all tied up, one Uchiha, one Hokage. Coming up in our third spot is kind of weird.
Why is it weird, you ask, Nick?
Well, that's because our third Hokage is Hiruzen. And if I were to hypothetically add Kagami Uchiha onto this list, I guess that could have been Hiruzen's Uchiha foil, as both Hiruzen and Kagami served on Tobirama's protection detail. But the only thing that we really know about Kagami Uchiha is that he also might have had the Kodowa Matsukame. We don't know that, though it's simply stated that his Genjutsu prowess was equal to or possibly greater greater than Shisui's.
Yeah.
So considering the fact we have next to nothing about Kagami, I'm not going to include him. The next closest thing I would say to having a foil for Hiruzen amongst the Uchiha would be Fugaku. And listen, I can already hear you screaming,
"No, Nick, Minato would be the foil for Fugaku."
And technically, that wouldn't be inaccurate, but it also wouldn't be hugely accurate. Fugaku was around 40 years old when he died, and Fugaku garnered a lot of his fame in Konoha during the Third Great Shinobi World War, where he most likely shared a battlefield with Minato. And while there's plenty of fanfics about how Minato and Fugaku battled to see who would be the fourth Hokage, none of that's canon. We've actually never seen Minato and Fugaku interact. What we do know for sure, however, is that Hiruzen was very much the Hokage, while Fugaku was the leader to the Uchiha. And while yes, for 2 or so years, Minato was the Hokage while Fugaku was the leader to the Uchiha, Hiruzen was also in charge when the Uchiha were massacred. Hiruzen and Fugaku have substantially more overlap than Fugaku and Minato, especially when considered the fact that Fugaku was roughly 10 years older than Minato. I believe he was actually closer to Hiruzen's age than Minato's age. That might not be true. And it's not like I'm going to put Hiruzen up against Obito, because Obito has several fights on this list. And while I guess you could technically put him up against Itachi or Shisui, I think Itachi and Shisui both have better fights as well. Well, at least Itachi does. So it boils down to Hiruzen versus Fugaku. Who wins? And this is a really interesting fight, mostly based on the fact that we know next to nothing about Fugaku. Even the canonicity of Fugaku's MS is kind of up in the air. See, in the manga,
we really don't know what
Fugaku doesn't have an MS. At least we've never seen it. While in the anime, it's revealed that Fugaku does have an MS, and it has the coolest shape out of any MS in the entire show.
And I'm going to go on record and say, if I were to have any MS, it would definitely be Fugaku's, but that shit looks so sick.
With the Uchiha is that the presence of an MS is a massive boost, especially if it's a dual MS, like it was in the anime for Fugaku. Having a dual MS for Fugaku would imply he has a Susanoo on top of 2 separate MS abilities. And while his MS abilities could hypothetically be the same thing, like with Shisui, still the possibility of him having 2 incredibly broken dojutsu abilities is something we need to weigh. So while conventional knowledge would tell us to go with the manga,
at least know what it is.
The
Like,
manga is
at
the
least
most
tell
credible
us.
source material you can have. We are talking strongest versions here. And obviously, Fugaku had a dual MS. That would be the strongest version. And after all, Fugaku was known as Fugaku of the Wicked Eye, which points us in the direction that his dojutsu prowess was wicked. So here's the thing. If Fugaku doesn't have an MS, then it's Hiruzen all day long. See, the strongest version of Hiruzen would be prime age Hiruzen, probably somewhere in his early 40s, somewhere around or probably earlier than Naruto's birth. See, Hiruzen was known as 2 things: the Professor and the God of Shinobi. Now, obviously, the God of Shinobi is a term that gets thrown around a good amount. Hiruzen, Hagoromo, and Hashirama have all been referred to as the God of Shinobi. Hiruzen is also been referred to as the strongest Hokage ever. Yes, that actually happened. Well, objectively, this almost definitely is not true, especially when we consider Naruto, but at the time, Naruto wasn't Hokage, he was a Genin. Guess he's still a Genin. Hiruzen's power is not to be underestimated. See, Hiruzen was known as the Professor because he learned every single jutsu of the leaf, meaning that every single jutsu used in the leaf, Hiruzen could use. All except, of course, for flying Raija, and wood style, obviously. Like, if there are Kiki Genkai that Hiruzen wasn't born with, then obviously he couldn't use it. And while we don't fully understand what every jutsu of the leaf means, we can assume that Hiruzen has one of the biggest arsenal of jutsu in the entirety of Naruto. Not to mention, we've seen multiple times that his battle IQ is insane. And also, his chakra reserves are possibly one of the highest in the entire show. See, somebody actually recently reached out to me over email and said,
"Does Hiruzen have infinite chakra?"
And as I got to reading their message, I got to thinking, does Hiruzen have infinite chakra? Because here's the thing, in Hiruzen's battle against Orochimaru, when he was much older and out of his prime, Hiruzen pulled out 2 shadow clones and used Reaper Death Seal 3 times, as every single one of his shadow clones was using Reaper Death Seal. And while in this direct moment we didn't fully understand what this meant for Hiruzen, the feat of being able to seal away Tobirama, Hashirama, and Orochimaru's arms simultaneously says a lot. See, I'm not going to sit here and speculate that Hashirama and Tobirama in this Edo Tensei form were at full strength. Inherently, we know they weren't, because Hiruzen was able to pull out the entirety of Hashirama and Tobirama's souls out of those Edo Tensei bodies. Now, if Hashirama and Tobirama were at full power, this would be an insane feat for Hiruzen, as in order to pull out the entirety of somebody's soul using Reaper Death Seal, you have to have equal to or greater chakra than them. And considering the fact that these were shadow clones and there was 2 of them, that would mean that 33% of Hiruzen's chakra is equal to that of Hashirama and Tobirama. But I digress. Hiruzen still clutched up a battle against Hashirama, who was able to use Wood Release, and Tobirama and Orochimaru all simultaneously while 70 years old. And while you could
I
sit
thought
here and
everybody-
say,
Oh, well, yeah, he lost, though.
even being able to beat a weakened Hashirama and Tobirama who have infinitely refilling chakra and can regenerate infinitely is saying something. On top of that, since he technically split his chakra into thirds with the 2 shadow clones, it's more likely than not after those 2 shadow clones used Reaper Death Seal against Hashirama and Tobirama, he didn't get that chakra back. Hiruzen was able to pull out roughly 1/3 to half of Orochimaru's soul with 33% of his chakra as a senior citizen, which would mean at that moment Hiruzen most likely had equal amounts of chakra to Orochimaru before he split his chakra into shadow clones. That is to say, if Hiruzen hadn't split himself into shadow clones, he would have been able to pull out the entirety of Orochimaru's soul. On top of that, technically the way that Reaper Death Seal works is that after the Reaper grabs your soul, you shouldn't be able to move at all. So Orochimaru being able to wiggle his fingers to move the Sword of Kusanagi is kind of stupid. On top of this, Hiruzen has arguably the first and or second strongest summon in the entirety of Naruto, with Monkey King Enma. Monkey King Enma is a 7, maybe 8 foot tall monkey, but he's based off Sun Wukong from Journey to the West. And again, so is Hiruzen, kind of. Which is why Monkey King Enma is able to turn into an adamantite staff. Now, adamantite is the strongest material in Naruto. So strong that adamantite chains, the sealing jutsu used by the Uzumaki, are able to seal Kurama. And Monkey King Enma in this form is able to weave ninjutsu, like Shadow Clone Jutsu, to make things like lattices and cages that are able to stop deep forest emergences from Hashirama. Mind you, deep forest emergence is one of the most powerful offensive jutsus in Naruto. On top of that, Hiruzen's adamantite staff was also able to push Kurama out of Konoha. Full 100% Kurama. For that matter, Hiruzen was kind of boxing with Kurama until Minato pulled up. And I have no hesitation in saying that Hiruzen probably could have pulled off everything Minato pulled off in his battle against Kurama. Maybe even possibly done better, considering the fact that I believe Hiruzen's battle IQ was probably a little bit higher than that of Minato's, assuming Hiruzen also had the help of Kushina. So could Prime Hiruzen beat somebody with a Susanoo? Well,
It sounds like
to say, because even within the
It sounds
confines
like
of those who wield Susanoo, power levels are massively different. Are we talking Kakashi Susanoo, or are we talking Sasuke Susanoo? Or are we talking Itachi Susanoo? Are we talking Shisui's hypothetical Susanoo? We just don't know. Considering the fact that Fugaku was both the father of Itachi and Sasuke, I would reckon that if he did have a Susanoo, it would be pretty powerful. So it feels as though if Fugaku was walking around in a fully formed Susanoo, that would have come up more often, like even once. So I'm not going to give him anything in terms of an insane Susanoo. Maybe a ribcage or not a fully formed one like Itachi's, but with none of the spirit weapons that Itachi had. Because he wasn't known as Fugaku of the Yatamir or the Totsuka blade, I guess genuinely the best comparison that I can draw to what I imagine Fugaku's strength might have been with a dual MS is probably Sasuke in his battle against Danzo, as, mind you, Fugaku didn't have an EMS. And in this battle, Danzo pushed Sasuke pretty much to his limits. And while obviously Danzo had Izanagi and Hashirama's cells, he was also pushing 70 years old. He needed these kinds of things to still be powerful. Half the things that killed Danzo, he probably could have avoided if he wasn't 70, or in the circumstance of Hiruzen, possibly just deflected with an adamantite staff. On top of that, Danzo was infamously weaker than Hiruzen. They were rivals, but Danzo was always playing catch up with him. So I guess the real question that I'm trying to ask here is that could a prime version of Hiruzen beat the Sasuke that killed Danzo? And while I think the battle would be close, I think I have to give the edge to Hiruzen. See, Hiruzen was alive during the First Great Shinobi World War. Hiruzen knew of Madara and Fugaku and all of the Uchiha greats. He had fought beside them for years, decades even, fighting alongside a possible another dual MS wielder with Kagami Uchiha. Hiruzen, the professor, would most likely have jutsus that would allow him to counteract things like a Susanoo ribcage. But since this battle has so many question marks, I'm willing to call it a draw in that Hiruzen wins, but he's out of the battle. And thus the Uchihas versus the Hokage is kind of 1-1-1, which brings us to our fourth entry on the list, Minato. Now, if Minato's not fighting Fugaku, who is he fighting? Well, Minato doesn't really have an Uchiha foil. I mean, I guess you could argue that it's Fugaku, or you could argue that it's some other people. But genuinely, I believe that the best foil to argue for Minato would be Itachi. See, Itachi and Minato did have overlap. Itachi was about 4 or 5 years old when Naruto was born. No, I think he was 6? That doesn't matter. But the connection between Itachi and Minato isn't because they existed at the same time. No. It's because they lived very similar lives. See, both Itachi and Minato were considered childhood geniuses, with Minato gaining the highest ever score on the written part of the Ninja Academy exam, and Itachi gaining the second. On top of this, when it comes to Naruto fights, Minato versus Itachi is one of the most talked about ones of all time. Even I've done a whole video on it. And since I've already done a whole video on it, you can watch.
Let me know if y'all want me to react to that one.
right here if you want to. It's very easy for me to give you an answer as to who wins this fight. It's Minato, and it's not close. See, in my video, I try to consider a couple of different scenarios. What if Itachi never had chakra sickness? What if he had a full Susanoo? What if he had EMS? And all of these variables were to help equate for the massive gap in power between the strongest versions of Itachi and the strongest versions of Minato. Because undoubtedly, the strongest version of Minato is Edo Tensei Minato. I mean, Minato died at, what, 23? He died in his prime.
20s.
Therefore, when he was Edo Tensei, he was brought back in his prime. On top of that, well, technically Minato was still a perfect sage while he was alive. It's not revealed until he's brought back to life. Now, Minato states that he's not good at gathering the Senjutsu chakra, but he is quite literally a perfect sage. And when we consider the fact that Edo Tensei Minato could just have Kurama collect Senjutsu chakra for him, well, he doesn't need to be good at it, because Minato, after all, was brought back as a perfect Jinchuriki of Kurama. Now, Minato does take a couple of L's in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, but this is only because he keeps getting hit with True Seeker orbs. And since True Seeker orbs can attack the soul and not just the body, Minato isn't able to regenerate things like his arms. Isn't that kind of messed up? That, like, Minato, because he fought during the 4th Great Shinobi World War, just doesn't have arms in heaven. Like an entire eternity with no arms. Hard to consider that heaven. If only he could have got Orochimaru's. But here's the thing. Minato isn't alone in having his strongest version be his Edo Tensei self. Because Itachi's strongest self is absolutely his Edo Tensei self. When Itachi's brought back using Edo Tensei, he doesn't have to worry about things like his chakra sickness or his lack of EMS. Because as an Edo Tensei person, he is infinitely refilling chakra and infinite regeneration, which means if he uses his MS abilities, any damage done to his eyes will instantly regenerate, and any chakra used by those abilities will just refill. But even that is not enough to cover the gap of power between Minato and Itachi. Because while obviously Itachi does have things like the Sword of Totsuka and the Yatamir, it's not a complete Susanoo. In fact, Itachi's biggest weakness is the fact that his Susanoo is not a complete Susanoo, which means that Itachi's Susanoo actually sits on top of the ground. It doesn't go under his legs, as Itachi is in contact with the ground as he walks, since walking is the only way he can move his Susanoo. So the way that Minato wins this fight, who by the way also has infinite regeneration and infinitely refilling chakra, is sort of in a battle of longevity. See, Minato doesn't really have anything in his arsenal that can destroy a Susanoo. We saw Madara with just a Susanoo ribcage turn away a big ball Rasengan from Naruto, and that was just a Susanoo ribcage, not to mention a Susanoo with a Yatamir. Now, technically the Yatamir functions by matching the chakra element of whatever ninjutsu is being used to attack it and reflect that. And since technically the Rasengan doesn't have an elemental chakra nature, it possibly could break through the Yatamir. Even if it did, it probably wouldn't destroy Itachi Susanoo. Now, a tailed beast bomb, that might be a different story. We're not entirely sure if a Yatamir is able to reflect negative and positive energy. As much in the same way as a Rasengan, a tailed beast bomb doesn't really have an elemental release. It's an 8-to-2 mix of negative and positive energy. And considering the fact that Kirin, when used by Sasuke in his battle against Itachi, was able to destroy Itachi Susanoo, and there's no way you believe that Kirin has more offensive power than a tailed beast bomb from Kurama. If the Yatamir couldn't reflect a tailed beast bomb, then that's probably GG's for Itachi Susanoo. But even if we're considering Minato not using a tailed beast bomb, since Itachi Susanoo isn't complete, if hypothetically Itachi were to ever walk over, I don't know, a flying Raijin seal, Minato would be able to teleport within Itachi's Susanoo. We know this is a possibility because we know more than one person can exist in a Susanoo at once. And we also know with the power of the Kamui, Obito has been able to slip through chakra barriers. Considering the fact that Kamui and Flying Raijin work very similarly, there's no reason for us to believe that with the power of interdimensional travel, that Minato, using Flying Raijin, wouldn't be able to clip into Itachi's Susanoo. From there, it's just a matter of who can seal who. And when it comes down to it, Itachi's greatest Fuinjutsu is his Totsuka Blade. However, since the Totsuka Blade is attached to his Susanoo and is rather slow, it's only good against really big enemies, or enemies who don't understand what his blade does and prostrate themselves in front of him like Orochimaru. However, Minato was married to Kushina, an Uzumaki, and we know for a fact that Kushina at least taught him about the Reaper Death Seal and the 8 Trigram Seal, making Minato actually one of the more practiced Fuinjutsu masters in Naruto. So while I do believe that Itachi probably has a faster reaction time and a higher battle IQ than Minato, when we consider the fact that Kurama's Chakra Cloak is comparable, if not greater than, an incomplete Susanoo in terms of defensive ability, and way greater than an incomplete Susanoo in terms of offensive ability, and that Minato's speed is far greater than that of Itachi's, and that chakra durability and regeneration are all null points, it seems like a relatively clear win
so far
for Minato,
we only have
making it
Madara
Hokage's 2, Uchiha's 1, and then a tie. Coming in at number 5, we have Tsunade, the 5th
So you got
Hokage.
Tsunade,
Now, I know
I'm
I've said every
guessing.
single one is an interesting one, but this one is also an interesting one. Tsunade's technically been around since before the First Great Shinobi World War. You could argue any Uchiha was her foil. But considering the fact that she basically has no relationship with any of the Uchihas on this list, I'm just throwing Shisui at her. Because Shisui presents her with her most interesting battle. Now, I can already hear the people who revere Shisui as a god screaming at me.
Saying there's no way that Tsunade can hang in this battle.
And you might be right. Solid possibility you're also wrong, though. See, Shisui obviously is a dual MS user, even though we never saw him use his Susanoo, which leads a lot of people to believe he either didn't have one or just never figured out how to use it. And honestly, I'm partial to this theory, because there is a lot, and I mean a lot of times that Shisui very easily could have used a Susanoo to get out of tough situations, specifically in Itachi's light novels. When Shisui found himself being choked to death by Mukai Kohinata, would have been a good time to use Susanoo. When Shisui found himself being jumped by Danzo, would have been a good time to use Susanoo. And once again, if Shisui did have a Susanoo, feels like we would have been talking about it at least a little bit. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying,
Nick, Shisui does have a Susanoo. It's in the video games.
the video game games aren't canon.
It's
But
not,
I did
I'm saying it's not canon.
technically give Fugaku an MS based off what we saw in the anime. Kind of dug myself into a hole here. But like, if we're being
Is
real,
that not
the
canon?
anime is
I guess anime
significantly
stuff
more
isn't always
canon than
canon.
the video games.
I know it's all non-canon.
But let's be real with ourselves here. You know what? No, I'm not crossing that line, and here's the reason. Shisui unlocks his Susanoo in Revolution, that's the name of the video game, after he gets jumped by Danzo. But that directly contradicts actual canon materials with Itachi's light novels. As we know through Itachi's light novel that after getting jumped by Yoji Aburame and Danzo, he heads straight back to Itachi. So no, I'm not giving Shisui his Susanoo. I'm sorry. Honestly, the fact that I gave one to Fugaku, should feel thankful. So what do we have with Shisui? Well, there's not a whole lot to power scale off. Really, the majority of the things we know about Shisui come from Itachi's light novels, of which Shisui dies at the end of. And what these light novels tell us is that Shisui wasn't really as powerful as we think he is. Like, yes, did he have the Kodo of Matsukame? Absolutely. Could he use body flicker? Absolutely. But genuinely, the only battle feat we see from Shisui is his fight against Mukai Kohinata. And while Mukai Kohinata is no slouch, he's one of the strongest members of the Anbu, an Anbu captain with one Byakugan. It takes both Itachi and Shisui to kill him. Now, at the time, was Itachi 12 and far from his peak power? Absolutely. But at this point in time, I think Shisui had 1, maybe 2 more years alive. It's not like at this moment in time, he was super far away from his peak power. Now, Shisui does basically win the fight for the both of them, as he activates Genjutsu from his Mangekyo Sharingan onto Mukai Kohinata that makes Mukai Kohinata cut his stomach open. Well, this wasn't even really the intention of Shisui, as Mukai just had a seal on him from the root that said that if he ever gets cast under Genjutsu, he cuts his own stomach open to protect the secrets of Konoha. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Shisui's physicality, strength, and speed were comparable to that of a high-level Anbu captain. And while obviously he could use techniques like the body flicker, while some would say that makes his speed equal to that of Minato, it does not. Maybe in terms of moving speed, Shisui and Minato were similar. Minato was truly the Yellow Flash because of Flying Raijin. We all know that, right? But when it really comes down to it, he has Kodo Matsukame, and he is one of the faster characters in the show. Even though by the end, the majority of the main characters of the show can and do use body flick. So is Tsunade winning in a battle against Shisui? Well, in terms of things like durability and stamina, you have to give that to Tsunade. That is inarguable. The Byakuya seal allows her to heal herself from death 100 times. On top of that, it boosts all of her offensive and defensive capabilities to a superhuman level. After all, Tsunade was able to crack Madara's Susanoo ribcage, something that, mind you, Naruto's Big Ball Rasengan could not do. So in terms of offensive power, Tsunade is probably somewhere equal to early War Arc Naruto, without Jin Cloak. Not to mention, in base form, that's without the use of the Byakuya seal, Tsunade is as physically strong as the 4th Raikage. And mind you, during that arm wrestling session, the 4th Raikage was using Lightning Chakra Mode, the thing that boosts all of his physical abilities tens to hundreds of times over. So in terms of offensive power, stamina, and durability, it's Tsunade. The problem is, Shisui has her in speed by a long shot. But not so much that I believe Tsunade would be entirely overwhelmed. See, mind you, Tsunade has a summoning. Shisui does not. With Lady Katsuyo, Tsunade is able to revive from death more than 100 times. On top of the fact that Lady Katsuyo is also able to attack, being able to spew acidic goo. So the real question becomes, could Shisui kill her over 100 times without running out of stamina? And I'm gonna say, maybe. We just don't know. I don't know how much chakra Shisui had or how much stamina Shisui had. Nobody does. We've seen him in 2 fights. One of them he won. One of them he very much lost, but would Shisui even have to worry about killing her 100 times? Maybe not, because let's remember he also has Kodowa Matsukame. But would Kodowa Matsukame work on Tsunade? Listen, I can hear you screaming, but let me cook. See, we know that Sakura is all but immune to Genjutsu, and this is because her chakra control is arguably the most precise in the universe. However, the person who taught her that precise chakra control is Tsunade. See, we don't know if Sakura would be immune to the highest level of Genjutsu in Kodowa Matsukame. We do know that she, like a lot of Jinchuriki and all of the Otsutsuki, is considered immune to Genjutsu, however. Though since Shisui's been gone for a long time, we've never seen Kodowa Matsukame used against a Jinchuriki or an Otsutsuki or Sakura. On top, let's talk about what we know about Kodowa Matsukame. You can be broken out of it like any other Genjutsu. The second somebody identifies that you're under Genjutsu, all it takes is for them to just put their hand on you and say release. We saw this when Ao saw that Mifune was under Genjutsu, and Mifune was broken out of it. Now, the Genjutsu that Mifune was under was Kodowa Matsukame. If Tsunade was being serious about this battle, it's safe to assume that she would summon Lady Katsuya, who, as a healer herself, also has incredibly precise chakra control. So much so that she's able to detect the fluctuations of chakra in those she's attached to. And thus, I argue that Lady Katsuya could function just like a tailed beast or Tsunade, meaning that if Lady Katsuya was attached to Tsunade's shoulder, the second that Tsunade gets put under a Genjutsu, there's no reason to believe that Lady Katsuya couldn't break her out of it. On top of that, it was actually Tsunade who diagnosed that Yagura was placed under a Genjutsu similar to that of Kodowa Matsukame, hypothesizing that Obito's Genjutsu was actually related to that of Kodowa Matsukame, implying that Tsunade has a great understanding of Genjutsu, specifically that of Kodowa Matsukame. So even if Tsunade isn't resistant to Genjutsu like Sakura, which she probably should be. Listen, I know she got placed under Infinite Tsukiyomi. Let's be real, that's an outlier. Considering the fact that the weakness of Kodowa Matsukame is that you can be broken out of it like any other Genjutsu on Earth, and the fact that Lady Katsuya would be attached to her shoulder and able to break her out of a Genjutsu, it's a pretty glaring weakness for Shisui. So it would genuinely boil down to, can Shisui kill Tsunade 100+ times before Tsunade lands one punch and collapses his sternum? You tell me, like, genuinely, there's no way to answer the question. We can't power scale a character we know next to nothing about. But considering the fact that he had access to the body flicker technique in his battle against Mukai Koinada and still managed to get caught by the neck, I'm thinking, yeah, Tsunade can probably land one punch in 100 tries into his sternum and flatten him like a pancake. And I can already hear the people getting upset, being like,
oh, this is why I don't listen to the light novels.
They're canon, baby. Kishimoto co-writes them. I'm sorry that your favorite character, who you've hyped up as this god amongst ninja, isn't as powerful as you think he is, especially against anybody who can be broken out of Chunin level Genjutsu. So yeah, I'm sorry. Tell me how in words that Shisui beats Tsunade in a fight, and if you have a good enough reason, sure, we'll run it back. I'll make a whole video about it. While you're typing out your answers,
ooh, type it in my comments too. I want to see that. So far right now we have Jubidara versus Tobirama and Tsunade. He's still clapping that up. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's still clapping that up. Now, next week, of course, we got Kakashi, but he's about to give it Jubito, and I already, but he said strongest form, and he showed images of it, so he might be using DMS Kakashi. This actually might be a lot closer than I think. Let me know down below who you guys got right now.
I'm going to the 6th Hokage, Kakashi, whose obvious matchup is Obito. Now you might be thinking,
oh, well, this is an easy one for Obito.
It's not. The strongest version of Kakashi is DMS Kakashi, who ironically has Obito's eyes and has Obito's Sage of Six Paths chakra, while the strongest version of Obito is Jubito. The problem is this fight is very similar to Hashirama versus Madara. The reason that the strongest version of Hashirama couldn't win against the strongest version of Madara is because the strongest version of Madara already had all of Hashirama inside of him. That's pretty much the case for this fight as well. Well, obviously, DMS Kakashi doesn't have some things that Jubito does have, most notably a Rinnegan. When it really boils down to it, that's it. But if we're sitting down and talking about things that these two don't have, Jubito technically can't use Kamui. He was too unstable as a Ten-Tails Jinchuriki to be able to use Kamui. So even in the odd Bizarro universe where both Kakashi and Obito have Kamui, technically Obito wouldn't even be able to use his Mangekyo Sharingan ability, which means things like Kakashi's Kamui Shurikens would still be one-shot kills against Jubito. Listen, I wish that wasn't the circumstance as well, because for all intents and purposes, Obito is the one person that shouldn't be one-shot by Kamui shurikens. And assuming Obito had the durability to tank the shot of a shuriken the size of a school bus, being teleported to the Kamui dimension wouldn't kill him because he could teleport himself out of the Kamui dimension. See, this is the true power of Kamui shuriken. If the shuriken doesn't kill you, the Kamui will. But the problem is, with Jubito, the Kamui would kill him, because the only way that Jubito would be able to escape the Kamui realm would be to use Kamui. And if he uses Kamui, he'll become an unstable vessel and the Ten Tails will reject him, which will lead to his death. On top of that, even though Jubito does have True Seeker orbs, he doesn't have his intangibility. And here's the thing, the only things that work against True Seeker orbs are Senjutsu attacks. And considering the fact that DMS Kakashi is powered with Sage of Six Paths Jutsu received from Obito, the majority of Kakashi's attacks would be able to cut through True Seeker orbs. So when you consider the fact that DMS Kakashi was running the ones with Kaguya and technically speed blitzed her, being the only person outside of Naruto to land a non-surprise hit against her, and factor in the fact that Jubito lost the basically majestic attire Susanoo from Naruto and Sasuke before their Six Paths power-ups, there's literally no way Jubito would win this. I wish he stood a better chance, but honestly, in this fight, him being a Ten Tails vessel is kind of a weakness, because the biggest strength you can have against Kakashi is being able to leave the Kamui realm, which brings us to our final entry on the list.
Bro, at this point, it's about to be Jubidara versus all the Hokage except for sorry, I don't know why I just guessed up his name. Hiruzen. Everybody except for Hiruzen and obviously Hashirama since he beat him. Because I think we could pretty much all say Naruto's probably taking this fight. If they're actually going for kill, Naruto. Especially because we got Baryon mode now too. Yeah. Now, if he comes back and somehow says that Madara is able to take all 5 of these people at once, no did he?
Naruto, the 7th Hokage. Who do you think he's going up against? Do you think it's Sasuke? Well, you would be right. Let's all sit here and be real with ourselves for 2 seconds. Without Baryon mode, Naruto is winning. Naruto and Sasuke fought in the Valley of the End, where Sasuke was powered by 8.5-tailed beasts, and Naruto had half. And Naruto won that fight. See, Sasuke was trying to kill Naruto, and while Naruto was like, oh, I'll take this seriously as well, let's be real, he was trying to stalemate. And that's exactly what he did. He used the perfect amount of power in his Rasengan to blow off both Naruto and Sasuke's dominant arms, stalemating the battle, which was a win state for Naruto. So you don't genuinely believe if in that moment Sasuke wasn't being powered with the power of 8.5-tailed beasts, he would have even stood a chance against Naruto. Now I know what a lot of you are saying.
Well, the Valley of the End isn't Sasuke's strongest form.
And you're absolutely right, it's not. Probably. I think it could relatively easily be argued that it was, but we'll say it's adult Sasuke for fun. And we all know that the Valley of the End is not Naruto's strongest form, because in that fight he only had half of Kurama. So even directly after the Valley of the End fight, Naruto was stronger than he was in that fight. Which is why we've seen feats like Naruto 1v1ing in Otsutsuki in Toneri on the moon. And mind you, Toneri had awoken to the Tenseigan, the Byakugan equivalent of the Rinnegan. Well, yes, obviously we've seen Sasuke go head-on against Kinshiki and Momoshiki sort of, and we see Naruto and Sasuke in relative base run Momoshiki's spade, but at the end of the day, the thing that killed Momoshiki and Ishiki was Naruto. Has Sasuke absolutely gotten stronger as an adult? Probably. Him saying that he would be able to solo Kage level threats is a pretty good indication of his increase in strength. And like I said earlier, his early feats shown against Kinshiki and Momoshiki when he discovers them, also very impressive. But Naruto has close to, if not equal defenses in his Kurama mode, as Susanoo, has an inherent healing factor through Kurama, giving him the edge and durability, can still use his most powerful attacks like Tailed Beast Bomb, while Sasuke can no longer use Indra's arrow, and his strongest forms is immune to Genjutsu because of Kurama, and is said to be the fastest person on Earth, faster than A, and was able to keep up with Minato. Genuinely, the only place that Sasuke really has a leg up on Naruto is battle IQ and maybe hacks, as 6-tome Rinnegan does confer Sasuke a couple of cool abilities. However, we haven't seen him use all of the 6 paths. I mean, we've seen him use Shibuka Tensei to seal all of the 9-tailed beasts at the end of the war arc, and we've seen him use the Deva path to push and pull people, but that's basically it. Those 2 abilities and his Heavenly Hand power, the ability to switch with objects, is basically all we ever see him use with his Rinnegan. That in Space-Time Ninjutsu, which is genuinely the only way that Sasuke would be able to win in a fight against Naruto. As Naruto has no Space-Time Ninjutsu capabilities, Sasuke could hypothetically trick Naruto into falling into a portal and just leave him there. But the fact that he never tried that against Naruto implies to me, in the Valley of the End fight that Sasuke identified, it probably wouldn't work. And then yes, obviously there's Baryon mode. But talking about Baryon mode Naruto versus versus adult Sasuke isn't even a fun conversation. Baryon Mode Naruto made Ishiki look like a TikTok boxer fighting Floyd Mayweather. He was giving him more combos than Wendy's. And Jigen, not even Ishiki, was disrespecting Sasuke. Jigen looked at the Susanoo, said, pretty cool, and ripped Sasuke out of it. He put more holes in Sasuke than the plot of the war. So yeah, Baryon Mode Naruto would rip Sasuke in half. Which leaves us with the question, could Baryon Mode Naruto, DMS Kakashi, Edo Minato, Edo Tobirama, and possibly Tsunade win in a battle against 3 Rinnegan Madara?
And my answer, before he even says anything, let me know down below, what are y'all rocking with? My answer, and it's very disrespectful, is if he did all that to Ishiki, who was supposed to be, if y'all watched the reaction that we did, the strongest of the Otsutsuki, Baryon Mode Naruto himself is making Jubidara look like Konohamaru when Naruto came back to do the tuning exams. That's exactly what that fight would look like. He's making Jubidara look like a child. That's my final answer. Let me know what you guys are thinking. How many people are going to have to get involved in the fight to make it a dub? Let's hear the final opinion. Dang, I actually clicked too fast. Hold on.
Answer is yes. Very easily yes. I'd argue that DMS Kakashi alone would be a pretty good battle for 3 Rinnegan Madara. I equate adult Sasuke to be probably somewhere in the region of 3 Rinnegan Madara's strength. So yeah, they're jumping him. Both Naruto and Minato can react to Limbo clones. And while he technically should have space-time ninjutsu, and therefore things like Kamui Raikiri or Kamui Shuriken wouldn't be a one-hit kill, they still would not tickle. Now, Tsunade is doing nothing in this battle. She's sitting in the corner, maybe using Lady Katsuyo to heal some people. The second you inject Baryon Mode Naruto into this fight, it doesn't matter. The real question is, would Baryon Mode Naruto have enough time to go kill Sasuke and then kill Madara? Probably. Yes. All you have to do is grab him by the legs and pull like a wishbone. He's that much stronger than them. Really, if we're being honest, it's only DMS Kakashi and Baryon Mode Naruto doing any of the work here. Like, Minato would be able to help, like, a little bit. At least he would be able to react to Limbo clones. But the real question is, could DMS Kakashi and Baryon Mode Naruto kill 3 Rinnegan Madara? And yeah, they could. And that's it. That's what I think would happen if the 7 Hokages fought the 7 strongest Uchihas. And before you guys are like,
oh, Nick's bias, he doesn't like the Uchihas.
I actually love Madara, Itachi, and Fugaku. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of Obito or Sasuke or Shisui. Well, I'm not a big fan of Shisui. I just don't like how people are like, oh, he's the strongest ever when we know nothing about him. And I quite literally chose everybody at their strongest powers to help the Uchihas in this circumstance. Because here's the thing. Well, obviously the Uchihas haven't been chosen as Hokage because, generational hatred. It's also because the strongest person in the village is chosen to be the Hokage. Hashirama was stronger than Madara while they were both alive. If Izuna had survived, Tobirama would have been stronger than him. Hiruzen, for as far as we know, is stronger than Kagami and Fugaku. Minato, for as far as we know, is stronger than Fugaku. And he is definitely stronger than Itachi. Kakashi, until DMS Kakashi, was weaker than Obito. But one of those people died to Kaguya, and one of them killed her. Genuinely, what feats do we have for Shisui? Struggling against an Anbu captain. That's it.
Get off that man, me.
Naruto. I'm not saying any of these fights outside of Baryon Mode versus adult Sasuke wouldn't be close. And I'm sure if a couple of things swung in the Uchiha's favor, they possibly could win. But as I see it, it's a victory for the Hokages. But tell me what you guys think in the comments below.
And let's see if y'all agree down below. If I'm being 100% honest, I think even in a 1v7, Baryon Mode Naruto, barring time running out, which I don't even know if it would, Baryon Mode Naruto is probably 1v7ing the Uchiha. Baryon Naruto is probably doing the Uchiha massacre. Baryon Naruto could probably take out the entire universe that is non-Otsutsuki. If we took out time factor and let Naruto be in his Baryon mode indefinitely, and he just had to fight the entirety of the planet, no Otsutsuki involved, just the entirety of the planet, the hidden rain, mist, the hidden cloud, stone, I'm forgetting one more, sand. Everybody's getting clapped. No diddy. 100 bottles of baby oil on the wall. Like everybody is getting manhandled by Baryon Naruto. It's just factual. Even the other 8-tailed beasts are getting destroyed by Baryon Naruto. It's no question. Like, so as soon as you threw that in there, yeah. Now, him saying that DMS Kakashi could take Jubidara, that is kind of interesting to me. Do I think that was interesting? Like, we took Baryon Naruto. I was honestly thinking it was going to be a close fight all the way up until Naruto. Like, obviously, I think he takes out Tobirama pretty easily. It's light work. I think he's handling Dang, I don't know what name I was about to call her. Dang, Tsunade. I almost forgot her name. He's handling Tsunade with ease. Minato. We'll give him a battle with speed, but he's handling Minato. He's clapping that up. DMS Kakashi though. I just think his battle IQ and the fact that he knows more about the Sharingan, and obviously, Kakashi's using borrowed powers, although his battle IQ is good, I feel like he'll have more over his own eyes than Kakashi would have over Obito's eyes. So I still would take Madara now. He's not getting clapped up, but he's getting defeated. You know what I'm saying? Like in a 10-round boxing fight, he probably losing by decision. A pretty steady decision where Madara wins 7 of the 10 rounds, but it still goes all the way to decision. He don't get knocked out at least. Whereas the other 3 get clapped up in probably the first 3 rounds. Now you throw in Barry on Naruto though, he's clapping them up in the first 30 seconds of the. They're gonna be like ding ding ding, dang, knocked out. But let me know what you guys think down below, man. Who are you guys rocking with the fight? How serious and how close do you guys think it is? And do you guys agree that DMS Kakashi and Jubidara alone would be a solid 1v1? Let me know. We'll catch you guys in the next one, man. So we go shot this movie, get back on Hokage, back Avatar King Leo. I'll catch you guys in the next video, man. I am gone for the day. Peace.